guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast on a mission to change the way the world eats. My name is Shurina. I'm a certified nutritionist, health, nutrition, brain performance coach, brain coach, and just someone with a lot of passion for helping you guys to learn how to use nutrition and other lifestyle tools to do your absolute best, to feel your best, to look your best, and have awesome experience in general, right? Today is Monday, guys, so happy Monday. It's our motivation day, and on Monday I always try to think of something that will help you to boost your motivation, because you have a whole week ahead. Hopefully you have some meaningful goals that will boost your motivation already. Did you know, guys, that just having goals will already raise level of your motivation? And motivation, at least for me, there are probably many different definitions in different sources, and for different people it might mean a slightly different thing. But for me, motivation is not just wanting things, but also being able to push yourself to go through the challenges to get after what you want. Wanting something and having motivation for higher goals is not enough. You also need to sum up some of that motivation to put into action as much as possible. And that's where we get to reap all the rewards. It's all in action. And so, guys, motivation, having clear goals, specifically clear goals, not just I want to, write a book, right? But having a clear goal, like what this book is going to be about, what you need to learn, what skills you need to develop, when you're going to do the writing, putting it on a schedule, and then breaking down that bigger goal into smaller goals that your mind can imagine, can put into action easier. That will increase the level of your motivation, and specifically the level of your dopamine, that one molecule that is crucial, guys, crucial for motivation, for making ourselves make things, do things, especially challenging things. Now, guys, a couple of examples here. They did studies on mice, and they made these mice not have dopamine. I forgot whether that was not producing enough or not having receptors, but basically they modified that mice genetically, and it didn't have enough dopamine, just didn't have the ability to produce that. And so that kind of mice, they would die even when the food was available, lying a little bit further away in the same cage. So they would starve to death even though the food was available and they knew that it was there. They just didn't have enough in them to take any action to pursue the goal, even for their survival. That's how important dopamine is. And of course, not having dopamine at all and motivation, that only might happen in severe cases with Parkinson's disease, because, motivation, drive to go after things, it's not just a mental thing, it's also a physical thing. Dopamine is important for actual movement, right? So without dopamine, you might want a lot of things, but that's the difference between wanting to exercise and actually getting off the couch and going and exercise, right? A lot of us want to be fit, but having enough dopamine, and of course you also have your reasons, your whys, why it's important, and you have to be quite healthy, but having that dopamine naturally increased levels of dopamine will help you to take regular action towards that goal of getting fitter. And again, it's the difference between wanting to exercise and choosing watch Netflix instead, and wanting to exercise and actually getting off your ass and going and exercise, right? So dopamine is very important for that. That's the major molecule that pushes us to go through challenging stuff, to pursue, to achieve. And whenever we want in life, if we don't have it right now, getting it probably will require some effort, and most probably some consistent effort. And having reliable, consistent, high and sufficient levels of dopamine is crucial for that pursuit of not just happiness, but also any kind of goal, again, that requires some work, that requires energy, that requires persistence and consistency. So we need dopamine. Hope you understand how important that is for anything you do in life, unless you just want to lay on the couch and barely get anything done to just, go by, survive, and sustain your living. If you have any goals that inspire you, that will transform you and your life and the world around you, maybe. If you have any of those goals and you're going to be going through some challenging stuff, then you need to optimize your level of dopamine. And for me personally, it's also a work in progress, because one thing about dopamine, guys, you don't want to have too much, you don't want to have too little, you want to have sustainable and consistent levels of it. And so, for example, things like eating highly processed foods with a lot of sugar or a lot of stimulants like caffeine, or even smoking, it actually increases quite a lot dopamine. Those things, they will spike your dopamine, but then you'll crash and you'll need to engage in the same behavior again to get that level of dopamine. But the thing about dopamine, the receptors that actually use that dopamine in our neurons, they are very sensitive. So if you overstimulate them, they stop working. So what it basically means, if you constantly eat sugary stuff, or you constantly smoke, or I don't know, maybe somebody even takes some drugs, right? You'll need more and more of that substance to get the same dopamine effect, because again, the machinery that uses that dopamine in our neurons, it is sensitive and it gets desensitized to prevent the death of those neuron parts that accept dopamine molecule and use it to start the action on the level of our nervous system, and of course on a physical level. So again, getting back to basics, we have different neurotransmitters, we have different receptors for different neurotransmitters, and the ones that work with dopamine, they have this feature that too much can desensitize that machinery, and then you'll need more to get the same level of dopamine of drive, and then you can kill that machinery, and to restore that, it will take some time when you're not going to be feeling that motivated, right? And so you want to be very careful to produce enough dopamine naturally, without drugs, without super stimulating foods and substances, again, like a lot of sugar or a lot of caffeine. You want to be careful to stimulate your dopamine receptors with other stuff that helps to release dopamine, but just enough, not too much, keeping your dopamine receptors sensitive and keeping your whole dopamine system working consistently at a level where you have enough to pursue all the meaningful goals, but it's not too much to kill all those receptors and give you no drive. And then you have to basically be kind of in a low motivated state for a while, not consuming any stimulants, to restore that balance and make your dopamine receptors come online again, right? So it's a very delicate system, and that's why you want to use foods and behaviors that help you to maintain good level of dopamine, but don't overstimulate the receptors, right? And let's get to practice, like what kind of foods and nutrients and behaviors will help you to maintain a good level of dopamine that doesn't overstimulate the receptors and doesn't make your receptors to die, to putting you into a low level of motivation. And of course, if you use substances like high sugar or high caffeine, or maybe you smoke or use some drugs, those things of course have drawbacks on your health, physical and mental, and your energy levels, a lot of things in your life long term, right? So you don't want to be consuming more and more and more of them, not just killing your dopamine receptors, but also yourself in the process. So let's learn about behaviors about foods, about substances that will help you to raise level of dopamine, maintain it at a higher but sustainable level. So we already mentioned goals, like setting clear goals that mean something to you will increase your dopamine. And by increasing, I mean, it's either going to increase the production or sensitivity of your dopamine receptors or the recirculation in your system and letting dopamine hanging out in your brain for longer. So different things work in a different way. But I'm gonna just say that we're gonna increase our dopamine for the future and this episode. So goals help with that. Exercise helps to balance and increase and put in a good levels of most neurotransmitters. So exercise, that is why exercise is so amazing. Yeah, you need some dopamine to make yourself exercise, but once you start, you know that you kind of want to continue, and the more you do it, the more you're driven to do it, and the better it feels, for anything from runner's high to just simply, for me, if I don't work out, I just don't feel as good. Initially it takes some like friction, some push to start, but once I start, I just want to keep going, and the whole day after that feels amazing. And that's just not just my individual report. Anyone who's been exercising consistently, they will tell you the same thing. I just feel so much better after I exercise, right? And of course, here you want to have the right dose, not overdo it so you're so crushed and so tired that you can't do anything else, because exercise is demanding on your resources, your mental and physical resources. You kind of want to be in that golden spot, unless you're a professional athlete, that are where you do exercise, where you feel good, but also energized to do a lot of other things that you need to do in your daily life. So exercise. Then we have things like music. Music actually is a great dopamine stimulator, right? So especially, of course, I'm talking about the music that you like. And for me, it's just so noticeable. Whenever I don't feel like doing something, I'm just going to put a tune that seems to be appropriate for that activity. I like different music for different stuff. For more creative stuff, I like jazz. For stuff that requires me to just get through it, get through a lot of emails or doing some research actually for some of my clients. Sometimes I just need this like pumping in my ears, not so many lyrics because that seemed to distract me, but just good beat. So music, it's been shown to work, to do magic on your dopamine levels. So use it for times that you need a little bit boost of motivation and drive to keep pushing, keep going. Next one, meditation helps to balance out and make your brain more effective in producing, using, balancing out all of the neurotransmitters. So meditation is a great tool to start building up the appropriate levels of all neurotransmitters, right? So meditate. It's not just good to come down and to relax. It's actually good for all of the neurotransmitters, dopamine including. Cold showers is the next one. If you take really cold shower or cold bath, like you cold plunge, it can boost your dopamine levels by 200-300%, guys. So the colder the better, of course, safely, whatever you can tolerate for a minute, for a couple of minutes. Also, don't overdo it. Don't make yourself too cold so you get sick, right? But cold showers boost dopamine consistently in everyone. Now, intermittent fasting is an interesting one. It actually increases sensitivity of your dopamine receptors. So if you've been abusing your dopamine receptors, you think with maybe some games or just easy, pleasurable stuff, like maybe too much food or, maybe watching many shows or maybe even taking some drugs. I don't know, hopefully not. If you feel like you've been overstimulated with just getting done some pleasure, some almost like addictive behaviors, then intermittent fasting is a good way to return some sensitivity to your dopamine receptors. Sleep, by the way, guys, is crucial for good dopamine levels. If you sleep on the wrong time, if your light hygiene, light exposure is all over the place, you see a lot of bright light at night, not enough natural light during the day, then your dopamine levels will suffer. So I highly recommend you to look into sleep and light practices. Let's get into foods, guys. So for dopamine, usually dopamine contained in foods does not cross our blood-brain barrier except for a couple of beans. There is one fava beans that contains L-dopa, that is actually a molecule, the closest thing to dopamine in our brain, and it actually does seem to cross blood-brain barrier. So broad beans, fava beans seem to be a good food to increase dopamine levels. Beans in general actually might be quite a great food. But besides that, what helps to produce more dopamine are foods that contain precursor or stuff or amino acid that dopamine is made of. So foods rich in L-tyrosine. Also, it actually is sold in supplement form, amino acid L-tyrosine. But I do not recommend a lot of people to get that and instead go for food, because again, for me personally, it overstimulates my dopamine receptors and I feel like I'm so motivated, but I'm also like so jittery and all over the place that I can't really sit down and get things done, especially things that require a lot of focus, right? Like to sit down and work on something like a piece of writing, for example. So taking L-tyrosine as a supplement does not work for me. Maybe it will work for you. But eating L-tyrosine rich foods like salmon or lean pork, chicken, beef, also firm tofu, great sources of L-tyrosine, and they will give your body the building blocks to build that dopamine. Also, guys, when it comes to building dopamine molecule, you need to make sure that you also get your B vitamins in check. Having variety of diet, I actually recommend to supplement with B complex if you're interested in optimizing your brain performance. So you need to have sufficient amounts of B6, B9, B12. A lot of these nutrients, guys, they are cofactors. They need for some reaction or the other to make the transformation of food stuff into the actual neurotransmitter or to support some process along the way, right? So we have B vitamins, we have things like iron, magnesium, copper, zinc, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D. A lot of those nutrients, of course, you're gonna get eating a variety of foods, balanced diet. But also, what I notice working with a lot of people, not a lot of people have a balanced diet with a lot of variety of different protein-rich foods and a lot of vegetables and nuts and seeds and source of calcium like either dairy or I don't know, eating ton of spinach, right? So I usually recommend to look into these nutrients, have some multivitamin, multimineral complex to close the gaps and possible missing links having, in those supplements to have your body the best chance to have everything your body needs and your brain needs to produce this magical molecule, dopamine. Also a couple of substances here that seem to be boosting dopamine, but also a lot of other neurotransmitters in a way that is beneficial on all levels to your body and your brain. We have here curcumin or turmeric. That is this orange spice that colors everything that it touches. Like, whenever I have something with turmeric, it's like some of my feelings get a little bit more yellow in my teeth or like around my mouth if I'm not careful, and even on my skin, it's very like colorful and sticky stuff, but it is very good for your brain. Seems to be crossing blood-brain barrier, seems to be also very anti-inflammatory and dopamine boosting, and also just good for a lot of processes in your body. Also, chocolate boosts a lot of neurotransmitters and dopamine including, but here of course we want to go for the darkest stuff. I personally go with 100% chocolate. And manage your portion. Usually with 100% chocolate, there is like no problem. Whenever I give someone to try 100% dark chocolate, they barely eat enough. It's hard to overeat chocolate that is 100%, that is bitter, that has no sugar. It takes some time to adjust your taste receptors to actually enjoy it. But in any case, guys, what I'm trying to say is chocolate, stimulates your dopamine, a lot of other things, but please do manage it, right? And it contains caffeine, so I do not recommend to take that before going to bed in the form of, hot chocolate or just pure chocolate bar or cacao beans. And that's about it, guys. So again, today we talked about dopamine molecule and behaviors and some cognitive exercises like setting certain kind of goals. We talked about supplements and supplement like compounds like curcumin. We talked about different nutrients that are needed to produce dopamine. We talked about why it's important not to overstimulate your dopamine receptors, because you're gonna get high, and then you're just gonna crash, and you're gonna have to take some time off dopamine stimulating stuff to restore the ability of your neurons, of your receptors to actually accept dopamine molecule and keep you motivated, right? We talked about all of these things. Please, if you have any questions, if you have problems with your motivation and drive and consistently pursuing challenging stuff, reach out. I'll help you to optimize it, looking at all of the aspects of your lifestyle and your diet, what can be blocking your dopamine, either production of it or receptors, what can deplete your dopamine levels, what you can do to restore it, to make more of it sustainably, consistently, so you can consistently pursue your goals, something that is meaningful to you, to improve your life, your work, and to enjoy it also at the same time. So ask questions, share this episode with other people wanting to get more motivation, more drive, maybe with your team. The more motivated your team is to pursue challenges and to make something meaningful done, the better your business works. As simple as that, guys. If you want me to work with your team, also do reach out. That's what I do right now, working with teams, with companies, to help them to boost morale and motivation and getting after challenges, muscles, so they achieve more, better, and faster. And guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And till next time, eat better daily.